just like that, it's Wednesday Night Tech Talk Live, brought to you by WAF Racing.
Yeah, check it out. We actually even have a pop-up already ready to go. I highlighted it. Go to WAF Racing. Go check it out. He's actually doing some testing for me for some of these parts, and it's going to be awesome.
Well, I thought about WAF Racing today. There's a guy the day before the Buick Nationals, which starts on the 29th of April, the day before up in Owensboro, Kentucky, this guy's auctioned off his big Buick Horde, and he ran Nostalgia Superstock for the NMCA with a big block Buick, and he has some of those Kenny Bell intake spacers to put a Mopar B block intake manifold on a 455 Buick. But you got to buy the Mopar ST15 cross ram intake manifold that's set up with it. So that I'm sure that sucker's going to be like $1,500 for that intake, and then $300 more for the spacers. I'm assuming.
If you get the spacers, we could just scan it from that.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Was like take them over to WAF, let them freaking duplicate them, and bang, done. The problem is the $1,500 price tag for that one-off or really hard to find Mopar cross ram intake manifold that I have to buy to get the damn spacers.
But then you could sell that intake for
probably. I could get the money back. Yes, that's for sure. Yeah. But or I could just run it on a Buick since I have the spacers.
Yeah, you got big block Buick, don't you?
Oh, I got a few of them. I got a couple of big block Buicks hanging around. Well, let's get this party started. At first thing at 3:58 p.m., SSR Performance says 3 hours till Triple Crown Talk ready and waiting. Well, it's the time is upon us. We are here, and we're ready to talk some Triple Crown and more. You know, I was just telling Shane, today's been one of those days where it's just like the cascading effects of crap. Working on old cars, right? I fixed this 1992 Buick Roadmaster. It's like a really clean, nice, cool car, right? And it was an old lady-owned car, and this guy bought it. And the steering box actually failed. It actually, the box itself, I don't think failed. I think the bearing inside went bad on the Pitman arm bushing, or the Pitman arm bearing. Mm-hmm. And I think what it's done is it's allowed that shaft to wobble and ruin the seal.
Yeah, start pissing fluid.
And no big deal. So I'm going to replace this guy's steering box. And he's just been dumping fluid in it by like a quart a week, right?
Yeah.
And like it's just running out. So I get that steering box replaced, and as soon as I fire it up, I turn that sucker all the way to one lock, all the way to the left, and it just blows the power hose off. And I mean, like, splits it right in the middle. So it's like, damn, that system hasn't had any power in it for a while, apparently. But or it hasn't had a system that didn't leak, get up to full pressure. Let's see. All right. That's our performance is here. Bruce Colchin is here. Miss Cat G, Slant Day of the Garage, Colleen Tebow, our wrench, Slant Day of the Garage again, Matthew Ward, Miss Cat G, Lumpy Y5B, Buff Del Campo, Kerosene Cucumbers, the rockinest name on all of YouTube. Like, who would put those two together?
Right?
Yeah, it's like bubblegum tuna fish, or tuna fish bubblegum. Tom Brown is here. Junkyard D is here. KS Skyhawk High to all and the Mohawk 62s. Dan's Garage is here. Fab Race Mod Repeat. Hello from the Fab Race Mod Repeat layer. Clayton's Toolbox is here. Hot Rod Guy Garage. Russell is here. Levi's Backyard Performance. Hey, gang. And Levi was building some headers for the heifer, which I don't know if you saw that.
Still is, yeah.
Yeah, still is.
I like this comment right here by Dr. Go. Oh boy, how do these weeks go so darn fast? Wish my car was as fast as time. For real, right? It's just this unstopping march.
I'll tell you what's weird about it is, like, when you were a kid, time had like this snail's pace to it, right? Mm-hmm. And it would be like the things that went by fast were like the days, especially when it was like summer vacation days, right? Those blew by. But it seemed like snail's pace. And then the older you got, time didn't seem to go any faster, but the months went by faster.
That's right.
And then the years. Yeah. And now it's like, oh my God, my life is half over and I haven't accomplished anything I wanted to do.
Well, I look at it as it seems like we just went to 26 and we're already at the end of month 4.
Right. Yep.
I mean, it's like, holy, like where did this year go by so fast? You know?
Yep. Well, Andrew Nelson says, good evening from Team Nivlac 57. Mohawk 62 is here. And Ed, you know what? I'm glad to see Mohawk in here. I hope you're doing well. He had lung surgery, last Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah.
So maybe Wednesday. Maybe it was Wednesday. I don't remember. The weeks went by too fast. Yeah. Dr. Go is here. And I think I'm pretty much caught up. Bigfoot Mark is here from Bigfoots and Mopars.
Nice.
So, yeah. So Dr. Go says, I've seen several cross ram intakes at Indy Swap and Iola Car Show. You know, cross rams and tunnel rams, dude, you couldn't give them suckers away in the 90s.
It's true.
And now it's like they're all the rage again.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, is because everyone thought that the tunnel rams are all top end, you know, and all that. But then once you put it on a dyno and you realize, wow, it's all mid range.
It's everywhere.
All torque and all
it's drivability. It's actually, if you could get the carburetor to work, it was 100% probably the best street intake.
Yeah, and what's really funny about that too is if you take a single plane, you know, a high rise single plane and a tunnel ram, you'll notice that the single plane will hold on at the top end a little longer, where the tunnel ram will tend to fall off.
It does
at the very top.
And I think that's just the ramming effect going away, where you're getting outside the tuning of the intake manifold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could technically, they used to make spacers for those where you could lengthen the runners.
Yes.
And you could tune that tunnel ram to work wherever you wanted in the RPM band.
Yeah, technically, when you get up that high, you want them shorter.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, high RPM, you want to shorten them down. So, like, you got to find this happy medium, you know. And there's really it's in it. The plenum, you know, that also adds to volume as far as runner length too. So it's just.
I remember seeing those plenum not adapters. I guess it was thickeners made out of wood. Remember those ones made out of wood? And then they had some phenolic ones.
Yeah.
But all that stuff used to be so cheap at swap meets. You couldn't give them away.
Are Mopar LA tunnel rams unobtainium? No, you can get them, but they're only at swap meets or eBay. And they know.
Didn't I thought? Well, do you remember a few years ago, Two Hacks Jeff brought one to No Name Nationals for, I think it was for John Wilburn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wasn't that new? I thought it was new.
It was new, but it was new old stock.
Oh, was it? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because they stopped making those a long time ago. In fact, we haven't made one at Edelbrock for a while, and I'm like, we should just bring those back. Everybody wants a TR1 or TR2.
I know, that's what I said a long time ago. Is like, why are they not limited production, just selling those? Because if they did limited production, let's say they made 500 of each. Okay, those 500 would sell out within minutes.
Yeah,
and you could almost name your price.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, this is good right here. It was Wednesday, and I can't believe how much better I feel. Thanks for all the prayers, and get well wishes, everyone. Well, you're welcome, man.
You're welcome, and I had one of my viewers that I talked to quite a bit, Roger. He's KS Skyhawk in here. He was really concerned about Mohawk. Let's see. Dylan Levi says, well, I can say custom header building has commenced on the Triple Crown Heifer project. So, sweet.
Yeah. I watched some of his. He was showing me some pictures. It's pretty good. I'm back to going to be posting a video every Saturday morning now. I'm ahead in videos, and I'm back to that now. So there'll be a video every week now for me, hopefully until No Name Nationals.
Well, KS Skyhawk here says, go by fast, wait till you're my age. And he's up there, right? He says, cops could give me a ticket for going too fast for current conditions.
Yeah. Here's one, too. Michael Schmidt, just getting in. Hi, all. I'm watching his video on All Hands. B-Day steak and car revamp. Okay.
Yeah.
Day. Good video. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't want to step on anyone's toes on that one. I didn't want to, I don't know, steal, content or anything like that. I just wanted to show what we were doing. So I did a lot of behind the scenes. Plus, the live was supposed to be doing all that stuff.
Let's see. Dr. Go says I saw a small block tunnel ram dual quad at Indy swap meet, swap with carbs and nitrous. Is it? It is one of my video shorts. I tell you what, multiple carbs and stuff like, my generation. I don't know. You could, like I said, in the '90s, you could almost give them what you couldn't hardly give them away. Nobody wanted to mess with them. The word on the street was they didn't make any torque. They were terrible on the street, and it was all top end power, right?
It's the exact
and it was, yeah, the drivability was crap.
Yep.
The one thing that I've learned being like a gearhead from when I was young till even now is that 90% of people that say stuff don't know how to tune a fucking carburetor or set up a distributor. That's really what I think.
True.
99% of it is.
It's the truth. Like, people are like, they'll take a carburetor off, throw it away, and I'll go and grab it out of the trash and be like, fix it, and it runs good, Like that carburetor that you ran on your 302. Literally, that was a throwaway carburetor.
Right. I remember we had to take it apart, and it had like, oh my God, man. I remember taking it apart on your bench, and it's like, had mix match, like it was supposed to be like staggered jetting, but it was fucking garbage. I mean, it was like 6 different sizes between the two. When you stagger jet something, it should be like 1 jet size different, maybe 2, and then it had, I don't remember, I think it had a power valve in the secondary that was like way dumb.
Like someone had no idea what they were doing. They just thought of it in reverse. Yeah, and I was just like, don't do this. We're not going to do that. But that's actually how I got a lot of my carburetors. That people would just take them off and want to throw them away, and I'm just like, I'll take it. And they run good. In fact, the first time that carbs ever ran was when you put it on your 302.
Well, dude, you nailed the tune, because it was like it came up like it was perfect all the way across the board, and it bested the Q-Jet, which I had played with all day. And granted, the Q-Jet was not dialed in. I left the secondary air door screw loose, the one that you adjust the tension on the door. And then when they opened the throttle blades, checking the linkage was set up, it unraveled the spring. And I was like, oh my God, we just spent the whole morning getting that dialed in.
This is for you right here.
Burton says the Buick 300 V8 is basically the 215 aluminum V8, but iron block, right? Well, I got some good news for you. It is the same, only better, because what happened is they sold all of the cast aluminum tooling to Rover, and when they built the cast iron block, they used the same cast aluminum molds, essentially. So it has all of the structure that you would have for a cast aluminum block, but in cast iron.
So that's good.
Yeah. So it's super rigid, right? And the mains are a tad bigger. So the mains on the 215, I think, are 2.3 inches. And then the mains on the 300 Buick are 2.5 inches. It's just like the Chevrolet small journal and large journal stuff, which is good because I've been looking at bearing spacers to run one of those short stroke cranks from a 215 in a 300 block. And all of that stuff pretty much is the same. The only difference is the bearing spacer would need to be narrower because the Buick has a narrower bearing than the Chevrolet, which is, there's 2 good things about that. Is like when it's narrower, there's less bearing surface area, so there's less friction. 2, it takes less oil to lubricate that surface. The only downside it was it should wear faster.
But it consumes less oil too. So that's
right.
Yep. So SSR Performance, did you watch the video that they had on the
I did. Okay, so this is maybe something we should talk about, okay? Because it may have thrown a few people for a loop on what was really going on there, and don't think that some 6-liter with low compression is only making 375 horse or something.
It's a converter thing. You're going through a converter that's super loose, and it's on a glide. Now, on most converters, you're going to put it like the converter at like peak torque, but on a glide, you're kind of putting it near horsepower numbers because you're trying to run it out the back door because you're trying to use that first gear as long as you can. So don't let that fool you, because a lot of that is being consumed in the converter, a lot. And it's hard to actually see that on a dyno. In fact, I would tell
Well,
people, I had my chassis dyno shop, don't even look at the numbers. We're just looking at changes, because you're actually going to be putting down a lot more on the ground, because as the car accelerates, there's going to be less work on the car as it's going forward.
I dynoed my T-Bird in 2015 or 16.
Yeah.
Whenever I moved out to Southern California, I came from Jacksonville, Florida, my last duty station there, and I went to San Diego, and I decided to have the tune redone at West Tech, which at the time had Mr. Brule, and it had one of the best Holley EFI tuners on the West Coast. And so I can't remember what his name is, but he still works there. Put my T-Bird on the dyno. Now, you guys have already seen what it runs. This the fastest I've ever had it go is a 605, right?
Mhm.
To run 6.0s in the 8th mile on just motor, well, it actually doesn't matter if it's motor or nitrous assisted or whatever, but mine is all motor. And so you need about 700 to, I guess you could probably say 675 to
Yeah, I would
720.
say 650 to 700, depending on the weight of the vehicle and the gearing.
My car, the engine was dynoed before when I had it built, right? And it made 653 horsepower. When I put the tunnel ram on it, I'm assuming it went up probably at least 50 horsepower.
And then moving the jets up too helped out.
And it dynoed at the rear wheels 430 horsepower. Okay, and that's because loose converter, tire. It's amazing if that shot had been from essentially the side, you can actually see that tire swell
and curve as it goes around there. It'll actually create a ripple on the tire as it goes over and pulling on that.
It's pretty cool, but don't be deceived by the numbers, because that thing probably is, I would assume, is probably making close to 500 horse.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
right. I would assume that's probably based on the ET. That's kind of that ballparkish. That thing weighs like 32 to 3,300 pounds, I think.
Yeah.
I remember weighing the car, and it was actually heavier than what I thought it was going to be.
Me too. I thought the same thing too.
But yeah. So that's a little bit deceiving. But what you're wanting to look at is when you go look at that graph, okay, where was all the power? All the power that thing was making was like essentially 3,500 up.
Yes.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
They got that sucker dialed in.
Dylan, I like this as a little poke at him. Ryan, that made more than I thought. It pretty impressive, man. Hope you can improve upon it.
Well, I'm sure he's already improved upon it. So thing having a glide with a loose converter for a glide is going to make those numbers, the disparity, even more.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Brown, go ahead on this one.
My neighbor just picked up a Wine tunnel ram for the tall deck 427 in his big block Barbie car, burnout car. With velocity stacks, it is taller than the top of the car. Crazy
awesome.
Kids. Dude, that's when I was a youngster and we used to go get a Matchbox or Hot Wheels for like 50 cents at the dollar store.
Yep.
Remember? Or it wasn't even the dollar store. It was like the corner. Yeah.
Kmart at that time, yeah.
They used to have a series of Matchbox cars that had like a motor that was bigger than the car.
Yeah,
right?
Roof. Yeah.
I loved those series.
The muscle machines.
Yeah, is that what they were? Muscle machines?
Yeah. So now, Tom Brown, before we get off this, I'm actually working on a project right now to put a stick shift in my green car in the Lizard King. I'm gathering all the parts. It's going to be a little farther down the road, but when I get the shifter to where I want it, the length and the bend, I would like to see if you would want to make something for me that was forged. Obviously, I like skulls and all that kind of cool stuff. So what I'll do is I'll send you the shifter, the one that would work. And I have no problem paying for it, but I want to see if it would be cool for you to make a video of it. That would be awesome. So if you want to do that, just comment here, and when I get to that point, I'll send it to you.
So Dylan Levi says, well, another update is we have acquired the Heifer's traction device.
Oh.
That's got my radars turned on. What kind of traction device you got going on here, dude? Because in a pickup truck, like an engine block in the bed, Caltrax.
I think it's Caltrax.
I'm thinking that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Or, is it rocking some of those 1970s Lakewoods?
No, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be Caltrax with sliders. I think that's going to be the best thing. And then he's right here. Ryan, did you use slicks? I was told that a few percentage points lost power due to slippage might not be true. Actually, it's not that it's slippage. It's because it grabs too much and it actually curves the whole top of the dyno. So like the dyno's round and the tire's round up here, and it literally will curve and create this wave in front. And I would even pump them up to like say 22 pounds, and it would still like curve on the dyno because they're designed for that.
Well, right. That's the sidewall is actually doing that on purpose.
Exactly. But it literally would just cause, you got to put a radial on it if you're going to put it on the dyno, like a true street tire, and then just pull it down on it, because otherwise you'll just be absorbing.
Well, there's some problems when it comes to race cars on a rear wheel dyno.
Yes.
Because I have seen them before where they don't dyno them until you get them into 1-to-1 gear. And then you got to tell them the gear ratio, the tire size, the whole 9 yards, and then they can mathematically figure everything, right?
Yep.
But if you put that in high gear and it's like, say it's rolling along at like 1100 RPM, just above idle, and you whack the throttle, it'll flash the converter and it'll give it a false reading of torque, because it's actually measuring it as it goes through the converter, the K value of the converter, the transmission, the drive shaft, the rear end. And what you'll see is it'll multiply the torque on the converter because that's its sole purpose.
Yep.
Right. And you have an erroneous number that won't really make any sense.
And then it goes way down.
Right. It'll flash way up there and then spike and then carry up. And what you want to do is just kind of completely discount that, because it's literally doing what it's supposed to do. You just have to understand how it works. The torque converter is multiplying the torque, but the shock of that drivetrain essentially coming to life is what's causing that spike. Okay. One thing I did want to, okay. All right. No, we'll get to it in a second.
Dead Pedal Motors saying, apologize, being MIA. My schedule and my wife's have shifted, so it's tough to make it on Wednesday nights. Well, glad you're here, man. Thanks for showing up.
You show up whenever you can. It's not a big deal. We don't take roll call and then send you to the office when you don't make it on time.
You don't get a little pink slip, and that's why we record these with no we don't make any money on these, so that way you can watch them back just like it is. So
Chris Burton is asking another Buick 300 question. Is the Buick 225 Fireball V6 derived from the Buick 300? Okay, I actually need to do a video on this because I've had so many questions on this kind of stuff. Technically, all of them are derived from the 215. The 215 and the 225 Buick V6 essentially came out at the same time. What happened was when General Motors sold the tooling to Rover for the 215, they ended up making a V8 version of the 225 Fireball, which was the 300. So technically the 300 was born from the 225. I love the 300 because, and that's why I was going to get to this video. In the 1980s, that was the swan song for the V6 Buick, the turbo V6 Buick. Before that, they had racing versions in NASCAR classes called Grand National, the Grand National Busch Grand National Series. That's why, hence the name Grand National for the Buick Grand National, because it won the Busch Grand National Series races in 1981. So they commissioned the Buick special program guys to make a Regal to commemorate that win. And in 1982, they came out with the Grand National. It's not like what you think about the Grand Nationals that everybody loves. It was an 82 Regal with a 4.1 liter V6 Buick, and it had a special paint scheme. It was very much a 1980s muscle car idea. And if you think about 1980s muscle cars, they were smogged out turds with flashy packages on them that really just looked neat.
Yeah.
The only like the quintessential one of that is the Hearst Olds, right? Go get a Hearst Olds from like 1983 and find out how meager stuff is.
Yeah.
It has a his and her lightning rod shifter, and it is an absolute turd. You can beat it with like a 301 Pontiac Parisian. But yeah, so the 300 actually grew out of the 225.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wish it was a different story, but they shared. That was the whole idea. Was it shared the same pistons, the same rods, the same push rods, the same valves. So if you're making a V6 version of it and you're buying all that stuff in bulk, you're actually saving a lot of money because you're making two different engines using the same parts.
Yeah. Michael Schmidt's actually a really good question here, and I actually have an answer for this one. Sway bar tech. Thicker sway needed to reduce body roll on a roly-poly 40s, 50s car. Can a wider and thicker sway bar be narrowed, or is narrowing dangerous? Will it be strong enough to endure? You cannot weld them, but what you can do is that you can cut the centerpiece out, and then on a lathe, because I've actually done this, is that you can cut them to 6 sides or even 4 sides. And then on that, you can run a link bar that comes off that goes down to a link bar that's got, so it's got like a rod arm and then a link bar. And that way you can actually cut them down. So I did this for someone who had I think it was a 50 Ford or something like that. And he got this sway bar that was massive from the wrecking yard. And we cut it off. I put it in a chop saw, but a water chop saw that created no heat. And then machined it down, flats on it, and I put 6 sides on it. And then we got a link because we're in Baja country, so we knew how big the links were for that. Slid them on, clamped it down, and that clamped it onto arms. And then we just put it into a bar, and that just literally connects the 2 arms. So when this one goes down, this one pulls down, and it levels the car. That's all it's really doing. And the thing is that you cannot weld on them because you're going to take all the temper out of it, and that's the spring effect. It'll be gone. And if you weld it down,
that whole bar is spring steel.
It's spring steel, and you weld on it, it's done. Literally, it's done. It's the same thing as if, like on the Chevys, when people would cut the coil springs and they would unwind, it's going to do the exact same thing, but
or heat them with a torch. Yeah, they would collapse.
Mm-hmm. It does the exact same thing. So yes, you can do it. Yes, you can narrow them, but you're going to have to cut them slowly, and then put arms on it, and then put link bars down to it, and you can literally do it that way, and it works very well.
Okay, here's what I was actually going to say about this. So 40s and 50s cars, if you go back and look at them, they all pretty much have the same track width. They're really narrow.
Yes.
And one thing I did find out, just being the total junkyard loser hound that I am, is that the S10 pickup has the same exact track width as a 48 to 53 Chevy truck.
Perfect.
And so those real narrow sway bars off of the ZQ8 package trucks, which was the performance S10 pickup, like before the SS models, I believe, came out. I'm certain that you could probably use the sway bars off of an S10, not have to cut anything, and
figure it out.
They're the typical in-link ones, right? And that makes them really easily adaptable to just about anything.
Anything, yeah. And that's the one thing that I had to do is the actual arm, I had to put that on there. And not welded, it was clamped onto it, but it was clamped on the 6-sided with the bolt going through it. And but it worked well, but still, that's a better idea. He just came to me and says, I want this, because it was super massive.
Right.
So
Dead Pedal Motor says, I work on a dyno, a lot of myths and a lot of truths. Even a nail and tire on a dyno can cause weird things.
Absolutely.
And then before I address this, and before I'll let Shane jump in here, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off. There was one down here, Bigfoots and Mopar. What do you think about hub dynos? The purpose of the hub dyno was to eliminate the invariability of the tire on the chassis dyno.
I like hub dynos much better for that exact reason. I had a Mustang 250 chassis dyno, so it had 2 rollers on it, and it was different than I forget the other one that's got just a single roller, a Dyno Jet. Dyno Jet is essentially an inertia style of roller. It's a big heavy wheel that you're spinning up. The Mustang 250 actually has a brake, so it's
Water
got
brake.
so it's got a load cell on it. But what's nice about that is that you can do a lot of different things with it, and that's why I did. I could calibrate speed. I could have people do quarter mile times, and I could at that time. This is like mid 2000s, 2005 when I had the 2004. Um, I could actually we had very limited GPS, but I could make plots for elevation, and then I could plot that. And coming out of the desert, diesels were very new, and coming out of the desert, we could load a diesel with how much weight it was pulling up a hill, and try to find the problems and tune it as we were driving up the grade. So it was actually really bitchin' thing. But going back to his thing, as far as a tire, a nail in a tire can do exactly. It will do weird things, and you're just like you're looking for the screw or even one little rock in there too.
Well, I've seen it where it'll slip the tire just a
Exactly.
little bit and it'll throw that whole thing way off.
Yeah, and it shifts the car too. You'll be sitting in the car, and then you'll be going full throttle, and then you'll feel the car like just every once in a while like do this, and it's right when that thing hits.
You know what?
Slip.
I just had an awesome idea.
What's up?
Well, the very first year that we were doing No Name Nationals, the folks from SSR Performance, before they were called SSR Performance, they were once upon a time called the James and James Show, right? And they owned a dyno, and they had offered anybody that was going to the No Name Nationals show up there at Paducah, and they could do a dyno pull. When I was in Hawaii, we had a club there called the Paradise Cruisers.
Yep.
And what we did once a year was everybody would throw in like $60 in a kitty, right? Everybody from the club. And we would go have an entire dyno day at the dyno for $60 for each person, which is really, think about it, it's a pretty cheap price.
Mm-hmm.
But yet the dyno is getting the full day's worth, and they get to collect, probably $3, $4, $5 that day from everybody in the group. And that's a pretty good chunk of change. I'm kind of wondering if we should do that. I think what would be neat is if we threw out the gauntlet. I'm throwing out the gauntlet. And let's meet up at SSR Performance like the day before the No Name Nationals, and the Triple Crown, whoever pulls the biggest horsepower, I'm going to throw out $50, right?
I don't say do it before. Let's do the same thing we did at your house. We do an all hands on deck, but we just do it at SSR Performance, and we'll do it like 3 months or 4 months before. Let's do it like 3 months.
Dude, what about the stuff that's still got to get built, like all my junk?
But here's the thing, though, is that the reason for that is if people on the dyno get a little greedy and they keep going and going and going and keep it up.
Blow it up gives you time to fix it, huh?
It gives you time to fix it. Exactly. Plus, if you're actually really let down, you have time to get faster. So that's just my
I think it would be kind of cool to do something like that, though. Like, let's say 2 months out, I think that would probably work. I mean, I can get my junk there, and it's not even totally legal to go on the track, but it could turn the tire at the dyno.
I'll bring Plan Z out. I'll do that.
Yeah. What do you guys think there? Big James, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to catch up here because that we're kind of far behind. Okay. But it says, I agree with this. I actually use railroad tracks made from dense anvil steel, a lot of weight and a small amount of material. Yeah, 1 foot is could be 100 pounds on rail. So I actually have a bunch of that stuff, and that's exactly what I use. And I have holes drilled down through it, so I can bolt it down so that way it's not loose or ratchet strapped in, and I put it inside the trunk, and that way I can play with it where it is. So that way, because I've only got 100 pound or a couple of them, depending on where you put it in there farther back, obviously is more weight. The farther forward, less weight, but it just helps out. And yes, here's a little thing. I forgot my anvil on the last No Name Nationals. I forgot to bring it. I didn't leave it in the car this time. I took it out, so that could also contribute to why the car wasn't hooking up. So
let's see. Barrows is saying that the Ford Ranger or Ford Explorer has a really good sway bar setups, and they're narrow. And then he's saying the S10s until the second generation was really narrow.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Go check out WAF. Again, thank you, Colleen. Hope you're feeling better. Thanks for putting this up there. Thanks for doing everything here.
Dylan Levi says he'll have a stack of S10 rear ends available if anybody's looking. Low mileage truck says 68 or 68K, not sure if it's worth recycling.
I mean, what's the gear ratio in it? I mean, it's what an S10, so it's like,
Oh, dude, it depends what engine it came with. If it came with that anemic 2.5 or the 2.2, you could get like a full 56 gear in them.
yeah.
So,
And
Mohawks and Curry engineers told me that the S10 rear axle was the same pinion angle and spring mounts as my 52 Chevy sedan. I bet that's right.
yeah, I bet it's right too. I've been told that before, that people have taken the S10, and that's why a lot of these old cars, they use the S10 chassis to put the old cars on, because it literally is the same as a lot of that stuff.
Okay. Let's see. I'm sorry, I was reading ahead. I was looking at SSR performance down there, but we need to catch up here so we can read that off. So Dr. Go is saying, I believe that some of those off-road package pickups had the solenoid operated sleeve that linked the sway bar. So by flipping a switch, it would uncouple for big articulation. You know what? There was one of those S10s, the Baja, in the junkyard one day, and I was freaking like, oh, why? It was bone stock. It had stock wheels on it still. And it had the whole entire Baja package. Those suckers were rare, man. They were real rare. It doesn't mean desirable, but they were pretty damn rare. And I thought it was cool. It was all there. It was complete.
Yeah. This is actually true. And me owning a shop and a chassis dyno, striping them down is where most of the work is on Dyno. Absolutely true. And then making sure that your car is good enough shape to go on the dyno. Nothing worse than oiling down a dyno. Here's the thing, is it's not the actual pull that blows the car up. It's when you let off and the car's de-accelerating. One thing that I learned especially when I was building engines, is I know that if you just lop off the throttle and you shut that throttle blade, that is the worst thing you can do to your rod bolts right off the bat, because they're going to stretch on when it's basically on power stroke. There's nothing there, and it's literally being pulled down by the rod cap. So what I would do is I would let off the throttle about half throttle, and then I would use the dyno brake, which is massive because I had a Mustang on it, so it had a brake, and it would pull it right down. So that way, it was never on the rods. It was basically still open, and it was still coming in. But that 99% of that you see are going to be braking at the top end, or as soon as they let off, you're going to watch that thing just explode. Is this the one you're laughing at?
Yeah, because he asked about that quadrajet drill bit a long time ago, and I'll bring it. If we do that, I mean, that would be pretty cool. I think where you get, let's say, 10 people show up or whatever, and then I'll just bring my quadrajet drill bit. I'll bring the whole entire kit so you can bush the entire shaft assembly.
I'm going to bring Plan Z. Absolutely.
I think it would be cool if we had like a No Name Nationals group or Wednesday Night Tech Talk Live group show up and just have a whole full day of dyno.
The only way now, where's Paducah at? Where's this at?
It's an hour north of Sikeston. It's northeast of Sikeston. There's actually a back road that's like one of the most bitchinest back roads to take.
Okay.
And because it takes you, you know how we were talking about the New Madrid area there?
Yep.
Okay. This runs I think it's 60 or 61, something like that. I think it's 61. Anyway, it starts in Sikeston. But I usually take the Interstate 57, I think, up like two exits and then jump on 61.
I know
it kind of snakes you through the whole entire western foothills, that weird like Mississippi vibe thing going on in western Kentucky. And it snakes you across. Oh, I know, everybody's been that way before, where it takes you across the two bridges in Illinois, the real narrow bridges in Cairo, Illinois, right? One goes from like, what's that town in Kentucky? I can't remember the name of that town in Kentucky. It's not Paducah. It's Mayfield, Kentucky, maybe. And then it goes to Illinois side of the river. And then from Illinois over to the Missouri side of the river is a whole nother one of those sketchy little narrow bridges.
Yeah, Paducah. I go there. There's three different ways. If I go the 55 to the 57 way, and then kind of cut that way, it's about 3 hours and 44 minutes. And if I cut through, it's 3 hours and 17 minutes. If I cut up through Union City and then grab the 69, then grab the 45. So yeah, I'm down for that. I go up on a Saturday.
Huh.
Yeah, because we'll try.
Oh,
Dr. Goes.
so SSR Performance saying on I-24 we're the last exit before Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's literally like almost on the Illinois state line. It, matter of fact, when you go through Paducah, I want to say there's one exit after the main one of Paducah, because you'll have a couple of exits. I think it's like 4 exits for Paducah, right? And then like one's the college, and then one's kind of out in the country, like I don't remember what it is, like some weird name, like Husband Road or something, right? And then you get to the main road in Paducah, and then there's one exit after that before you get into Illinois. And the gas price there is like, I would say it's probably 60 cents less than Illinois, right? And it's like
California, Arizona.
there's a million people at the gas stations there before they drive into Illinois.
Yeah,
And,
it's like Arizona. You could be on California and you could look across the river and see that it's $2 cheaper in Arizona from one side to the other.
that's Illinois and Kentucky.
Wow.
Levi's Backyard Performance says there's also a killer steakhouse just up from Paducah called the Oasis Southwest Grill. I didn't know that.
That sounds.
Oh, you're talking about Wycliffe, not Mayfield. You're right. It is Wycliffe. That's right. Because it's the Wycliffe Mounds. That's what makes that place so interesting, is that it's super low, so it always floods up, but they got these giant mounds of dirt built up there, and that's what the whole town is on. But it's got this eclectic, really weird, like vibe to it. You know, it's like these old, let's say 1700s houses. And then right next to that is like a general store, like a legit general store.
Wow.
Right? It's just so weird. But they have good food there. They got good barbecue there. And every time I've been there, everybody is so freaking friendly and happy.
That's amazing. It's not Memphis.
No, it is not Memphis. It's like the opposite of Memphis.
He's saying Union City is the best way for you. That's what it looks like. It looks like going to Union City and grabbing the 69 just by looking at here. I agree with that. Yeah. It would be something that I would come up on, like, say, Saturday, and I would just spend the night up there in my trailer, do dyno day, and then come back on Sunday, make it a nice leisurely weekend.
Well, it sounds like a good, fun time.
Yeah. Sounds like awesome.
Oh, SSR Performance says we are near Husband Road exit. Oh, all right. So it's like the first couple of exits in Paducah when you come on 24.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you post your address here, and then so that way people can kind of know where you're at. But, I'll get with you, James, and we'll see if we can pick a weekend. And Dallas, get in on this too. We can pick a weekend, and then we'll advertise it, and we'll do the same thing we did last time. We'll just have a bunch of people show up and barbecue and do some dyno testing.
Well, we were talking about this the other day. Down that way is like very southern part of Illinois is, what did I tell you, the Bonnie and Clyde Museum.
Yeah.
If you've never seen that, that's like pretty cool to see that car. It's like literally shot up, that Model A with a flathead Ford in it. It is literally shot up big time.
I saw it in Vegas.
Yeah. That whole area has got a lot of really neat stuff, and that's that whole area down there where Illinois meets Missouri, meets Kentucky. That's all Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn kind of timeline. And it has its own feeling to it. I really love it down there. I like that Sykeston track was, at one time I had 8 tracks for the AHRA, and Sykeston was literally the one I enjoyed to drive to the most. And I always took that back road from Paducah to Sykeston, which I think is 61.
So, James, is there enough place if people brought their trailers? I'm kind of looking at it on, where you're at here. And I hope I don't mind showing this, but it looks like it's got a big lot there. So if that's the case, if we could park there, that would be awesome, because I would have no problem coming up there. And then it'd be cool is if we did it to where there was like a Sunday race. So we dyno on Saturday, and if there's a track near him, we go to the track on
Dude,
Sunday.
there's a track in Paducah called Beacon Dragway.
Oh,
And then there's a track like the Sykeston track is like an hour.
Oh, perfect. Well, then how about this? We'll find out what their schedule is, and then we'll just do it around that. So we'll do a dyno day and then go to the track, and we'll all do a pre-test, let's call it. So that's me, and I own the building in the front as well. Perfect. If we could park in that, and if it's safe area to park, I would just definitely stay there.
Man, I would tow my junk Buick up there with no body panels on it and halfway finished, and I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, and I got that. That plenty of room in the trailer, so you can stay in that. So
yeah, I think it would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see here, and you know what? It's not all that far from Boomland. If you guys ever been to Boomland,
I love Boomland.
Do you?
Yeah, that's the one's right off 57. In fact, every time I go to Sykeston, I stop by that Boomland and I go in there and I always get just like the Genghis Kong boxes. And
so you know why that is? I grew up in Illinois. I hate to say that because the people go, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And back in the 80s, in the early 90s, Illinois wasn't all that bad, but it was still very democratically controlled. So they never had fireworks were illegal in Illinois. You couldn't have fireworks, right? And it was like, what a total bummer. And so everybody, whenever he went to Boomland, that was like the big thing to do is buy up fireworks, bullets, because Illinois had some of the strictest gun laws, right? You had to have like a FOID card just to have, and a FOID card is like a firearms operator identification card or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's listed on there what ammo you're going to buy. Well, like the Constitution says, it's nobody's business, right?
Yeah.
But they listed everything you got on that card.
Yeah.
And you had to have, if you were buying ammo in Illinois, you had to have a FOID card, and it had to have what ammo you could buy.
Yeah.
But you go to like Missouri, and it's like, welcome to freedom, everyone.
Agreed.
Buy whatever the fuck you want, right? And it's like, yeah, that's what was so great about it when I moved here was like, I remember one day I was like moving in, and my neighbor's like, "Hey man, I saw you bringing some guns in there," and I'm like, "Okay," and he's like, "Well, I'm not going to ask you what they were because it's none of my business," and I'm like, "Oh, great, sounds good." I said, "Do you get any guns?" He's like, "You'll never know."
So, someone's texted me again here, and I was actually bringing this up with Dallas earlier, and I didn't know if I was going to talk about it or not. But and I normally don't compare anything. I don't talk about this or anything. But someone asked me to evaluate a video that Uncle Tony just put up. It says the number one cause of drivability problems with carbureted classic cars and how to fix it. And there was a comment in there. I guess I had to watch the whole thing, and there was a comment in there that it was talking about electric fans on older vehicles and to keep them stock. People want my thoughts on that. Well, because and like I was telling Dallas, I have two vehicles that are literally identical. One, the Beaver, is 100% stock. The Lizard King is not. And they have two distinct purposes, and they cool completely different. Now, the Beaver is 100% stock, and I drive it around. It's got a fan on it, no clutch fan, and it works just fine for what it does. However, if I were to do that exact same thing on the green car, it wouldn't get the mileage. It wouldn't have the freeway prowess it does. And I do have electric fans on there, and people know this. They wanted to know my opinion on this. He was also saying, my opinion on that is that for stock engine purposes, the factory fan and everything is perfect. But the second that you add a little bit more compression to that engine, it's going to take more cooling capacity and more delta across the radiator to cool said engine. And you're not going to do that with a factory cooling system. So you're going to need some sort of, something like an electric fan or a bigger radiator and or some sort of clutch or something that's moving air when you're at a slower pace. Like you're on the freeway, you get off, you're going to need something that's going to pull air across there. They also, to this, wanted to know my opinion about, he's saying that the boiling of the fuel starts in the fuel pump. And I do believe this. I've always said this. The Slant 6, it luckily is down low, and it's on the side, and it's kind of in the back. I have a little plastic piece that blocks the radiator from the electric fan that blows on that when you're sitting at traffic, and that will bound it up. Also, too, also you can get like the smog style, filters that have like a 60,000 orifice that runs it back. So my thoughts on them is that if your engine is stock and everything's stock, the stock cooling is going to be fine. If it's modified, you're going to need some sort of cooling system that's going to be sufficient for what you have. For me, both my cars have a purpose. I'm not saying he's wrong, but in stock form, he's right. But for my modified car that does 75 miles an hour and whatnot, the stock cooling is just not going to get it. So I do something different. What's your thoughts on that?
I haven't seen his video, so I'm not going to really comment on it. But
what's your thoughts on, how about this? The caveat to this is that if you put an electric fan on a car, a hot rod or whatever, and then it's going to heat up the fuel pump, and that's where the boiling of the fuel is going to start. So therefore, if you keep all the stock parts on it, that it's not going to cause the boiling of the fuel nearly as fast. Now, obviously, the fuels have changed, but
my take on this is like, well, I don't think that's true. I don't think there's anything to do with the fan making the fuel boil. I think, like, okay, I wonder what is the boiling point of gasoline? Do you know?
It's about 140, 150. Well, it's lower now because of the ethanol in the fuel.
Okay,
I think it's like 175 is what it used to be.
I'm going to throw this out there that I don't think anybody's thinking of this. Okay. When you're running a mechanical fuel pump, and that's when you have fuel boiling drivability issues, is when you're running a mechanical fuel pump, because it's engine driven. So the heat is automatically going into the pump.
That's correct.
Right? And that's why if you ever look, a fuel pump is generally made of aluminum. Yes. Right. And what would probably be ideal is if they had cut some fins into the freaking aluminum to give to more surface area to cool.
Yeah.
But when you draw that fuel in, and let's say the boiling temperature is 150 degrees, okay, and the engine's operating at 180 plus, generally, maybe it might be 160, who knows, but when that pump is operating, it's an arm that's running on an eccentric of the camshaft, right? And when it's operating, it is pushing pressure to the carburetor, but then at the exact same time, it's creating a vacuum to draw more fuel in. When it creates that vacuum, it drops the boiling pressure from 150 to probably 110 degrees.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. What I think is going on is I think it cavitates the fuel, and then because it's creating a vacuum pulling it in, it essentially flash boils it on that pump that's probably more than 140 degrees.
Yeah. Also, too, he was talking about putting the old click-clack pumps, the one that you can draw through.
Yeah.
Click-clack. He was talking about putting one in the back, which I've done. I've actually had this. And you put them up in there, and then that way when let's say you drive and you stop the car for 15 minutes, that's when you have the most problem. And then you put a click-clack pump on it, and that way you can prime the system, get fuel all the way back up there, get cool fuel, and then start the car up. I've actually done that, but what I have now is I have a return system on my car, and then it just takes an extra couple cranks, and it's got a 60,000 orifice that goes right back to the vent and goes back and down into the tank. And that literally cured 99% of my problem.
Well, I'll tell you what's cured a lot of this stuff is like, okay, I used to take if I had to buy a fuel pump, I would buy the one for the AC car that had a return on it. And then I would run it through the actual return side, and it would pump fuel, but it would circulate it all in the tank. And it uses the tank at that point as a giant heat sink.
Yep.
Right. And I think I've never had problems. It seems like to me, Uncle Tony's the one that seems to have all the problems with boiling fuel. And maybe it's just some thing that he's doing, but I mean, I've never really had a problem with it. He used to say the quadrajets were really bad for it, which I could see because they got such a small fuel bowl, and then they're right in the center of the engine where all the heat's at, right?
Yeah. I don't
I've
have a
never
problem.
had a problem with them. I've had problems with V6 Buicks with the that were never air conditioned cars, so they didn't have an air conditioned fuel pump on them, and with those dual jets that was like half a Rochester Quadrajet, and it has the same fuel bowl. And it was only on a V6 Buick and a Monza did I ever have a problem with that.
Yeah, and in that video too, he was talking about running a fuel pump that had a return at the pump now on the slant six. I've never seen one like that. Maybe they do. I just never seen one like that. I went on Rock Auto to see if there was ever one made like that. I never saw one, but
It has a return.
yeah, it has a return on it actually at the pump. So I just run. They have different styles of the ones. I use the Chrysler like 70. I think it's an 81 fuel filter, and it's got the one that sticks straight up. So a lot of them have two facing forward. This one's got one that sits straight up, and then I just run a line back, and then I've got a dash forward line that runs all the way back, and there's a vent on the tank fill neck, and I run it back into that. So the hot fuel that's come back runs back into that, and it's basically open to the air, so it cools down before it even gets back into the tank.
And I never considered it that all the fuel pumps are mounted up front.
Yeah,
for airflow. I
Yeah.
never considered that, but after just talking about it now, I realized that there had to be a reason for that.
Yeah, and on the slant six, it's literally on the front, but it's on the lean side. So, and then they have plastic
It blocks like more of the airflow.
Yeah, and it actually they have plastic in there that literally it's a splash guard for the distributor, but then there's also a piece of plastic there that puts air to the fuel pump. It literally puts air to the fuel pump right there.
Yeah. So Michael Schmidt's saying a Carter electric fuel pump, these are not clickety clacks, right? No. The clickety clacks are only about like this big.
And they're like facets. They Facet used to make them, and they used to be a little box, and that's the one I used. And they go back and forth. And
I don't use them for anything like if you're trying to make horsepower or tow a load, they just don't have the volume capability. Yeah. Right. But they work great on stuff like, if you didn't have a gravity feed set up on a horizontal, Briggs engine, clicky clack would work great. Yeah. Where you can pump it from a tank to up. Or if you had just an engine start stand, clickety clack is fine.
And why they make clickety clack is it literally a solenoid with a check ball inside of it on a spring. And then as it goes back and forth, it literally creates a vacuum with that ball going back and forth, the siphon, and pulls through. And then if you turn it off, the fuel coming through will just move that little ball forward, and then it can flow right through it. So literally it's a pass-through system. And I've had those on there before, and it just pre-primes the system.
It's got me wondering now. I'm wondering if I can use a transmission cooler and run fuel to that through it. And if you did it before the pump or after the pump, would it make a difference?
It would have to be after, because you couldn't. The thing about running it before is that that's on the vacuum side, and it's hard to pull fuel through the vacuum side, especially up. So it'd have to be afterwards.
No. But it doesn't matter. See, you can actually turn that thing horizontal, and then all the lines are in the same plane, right? And all you need is airflow across it. I wonder if that's something worth doing a video and testing it.
Yeah, you could do it this summer. Literally, I could do it
like when it's hot, and then I'm going to go out and test this and see if electric fan bothers any of this. I don't know. I think it'd be totally worth doing. Okay.
So anyways, Dylan's saying Beacon is rad and has to go test and tune once. I really love the area. Want to race there someday. So yeah, Beacon's right down the street. So, and I was looking it up while we were talking, and I would say that's a win right there. I say we do that.
Let's see. Mohawk 62 says, I have never had a problem with oil and gas. Me neither. I've never had this. I take that back. The only car I ever did was that Monza. And I think what it was is that I really believe it had such a small engine bay that everything was so shrouded that it literally caused airflow issues in that engine bay.
Mine boils on the slant six on the green car because the carburetors are literally sitting over the exhaust manifold, literally sitting over that,
On
and
the
the
same side
fuel,
of the head.
yeah, on the same side, and the fuel is on the passenger side. So literally, it sucks up on the passenger side, runs across the front of the engine, right in front of the fan, then runs across the headers to the carburetor. So yeah, I mean, and then I have all that stuff wrapped. That helped, and then the return literally ended a lot of that stuff. But even to this day, if I'm driving and I get off the freeway and I stop at a gas station to fill up, like when I was going to your house, Dallas, when it's really, really dry out and hot, that's the worst. I'll shut the car off, and then literally all the fuel in the carburetors will literally boil. And then it just takes a second to start it. You know, you until, and you can hear the fuel boiling, and then all of a sudden it just cleans right up, and then you're good to go.
Huh. Well, Dr. Go says, I live where it gets minus 30 Fahrenheit or colder for a few weeks and 7+ months of winter. So no fuel boiling for me.
Right.
Yeah. Dizzy Izzy says he drove a couple of Ford tool trucks, a 390 and a 460 that would get vapor lock issues because the fuel pumps would get hot and the fuel line would be close to the block. I dumped water on the line and pump. Yep. You know, and that's Fords were always weird where I want to say their fuel pumps were like upside down looking, right? Is that right?
It's that way too. It's literally upside down.
I wonder if that was intended for that purpose, right? Because heat rises, so they flip the pump upside down.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know. Dylan's saying something here, but here I have a cure for this. So when the engine diesels, when you turn off, and that's the main thing to look for in my red truck, is terrible for it. Just start it, turn it off in gear. So turn it off while it's in drive, and it'll never diesel.
Generally this is a distributor issue thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have so GM HEI distributors are notorious for freezing the weights out at the maximum. Because what will happen is they'll get rusty all the way in. Then you start the car up, and as the engine speed comes up, those weights go out, and then they just stay there because they're rusted. And this is a very big problem for HEI distributors where what will happen is you go to turn it off and the damn thing's got like full mechanical advance at one time, right? It's like 34, 32 degrees of timing when it's trying to shut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually a really good one here, and I've actually done this. Anyone utilize the power steering finned coolers for fuel or other types of coolers for fuel? If so, would you use? Now, you know when you go to the wrecking yard, they have those little 4-pass coolers that you would get like on GMs or Fords. They were really small and compact. I used to get those, and I would put them in, because I'm all about, like, in my race car, cooling the fuel, and I would run it through one of those things that was just in a small tank of ice water, and it literally would help out because it's a 3/8 line. And then since I was running a bypass system, I would just leave the fuel pump on, and it would cool down all the fuel in the tank really fast. And it works good. In fact, the first time Dallas and I raced, he saw me. I had a cooler in there, and I had my fuel sitting in big coolers on ice.
You had the ice circulating at the back of the car.
But
I walked over to my trailer, and I'm like, "This is how I do it." And I threw over my cooler, and I threw the whole gas tank in the cooler. Remember?
Yeah. But I had my jugs of fuel in my massive cooler also. They were sitting.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So the fuel that was being stored, and I had a black plastic tank, and at Barona, man, it would get hot, like dry heat hot.
Oh, dude, golly.
So, and then I would get that fuel, when it's dry, like I'm talking like 30% humidity dry, my fuel was so cold, it was actually beating on the
I've been there before where it was 114 degrees, but it's like super dry.
Yeah.
Right? But it feels like 100-degree day in the South here where the humidity is 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's just like, it's a different heat because you don't sweat and all that much.
Because it zaps right off of you.
But when you breathe, it's like laboring to breathe because the air is so thin and hot.
Yeah. And it literally dries out your lungs, you're coughing. And the worst part about it is, like he says, you don't sweat because it zaps right off of you. And the sun, since it's not going like here, even though it's hot and humid, it feels like a warm blanket. It's actually, for me, when it's really, really hot, I will take the south heat rather than the desert heat, because that is like, that sun just cooks through you. Like
Dude,
it burns the back of your skin. So
I've been at that track where it was like I got so sunburned and it was so hot that day. By the end of the day, my pants were falling off because I had lost so much water weight
yeah,
that just as the racing pants only have like one little small Velcro area to
yeah,
hold anything up, right? They don't have a belt or nothing. And you would lose so much weight that the pants would just fall off and you'd have to readjust that thing. And sometimes it didn't adjust enough. You'd run out of a little strap to adjust. But I was there one night. It was like one of those 114-degree days. I was just testing and tuning, right? And I was making pass, like one pass maybe every hour, hour and a half, because I was make a pass and then you go adjust something and make another pass. And however long it took in between is how long it took. But man, when the sun went down, I want to say it dropped 40 degrees in like an hour. And I was sunburned and shivering, right? Like, oh my God. Because I tell you what, there's nothing worse than like a drastic temperature change, because it feels even worse because you're used to that really high heat temperature and all of a sudden it just falls out the bottom and you're down like 60 degrees and it's like, golly, I think I'm going to die, and you probably could. I mean, you could probably come up with hypothermia pretty easy.
Yeah. So I guess Colleen made a short showing off my WAF Lenco Shift Points T-shirt. So I guess he made a WAF Lenco shirt. So awesome. Michael Schmidt's asking right here. Oh, actually, a Mohawk 62 saying, I had a 1970 Mercury Brougham, and it would diesel so bad it drove it around the block with the key off. Had to put a towel over the carb to choke it out. That's awesome. That's like Uncle Buck territory right there. That's good stuff, man.
That's pretty interesting. Izzy's saying that clothespins will remove heat like a heat sink.
It does. Absolutely.
I guess the wood would be an insulator.
Well, no, it just anything that touches it, because the wood is cold, right?
Uh-huh.
And it basically wicks the heat away from that area.
I know that.
Yeah, it's a trick. Like the coming, obviously I grew up out in the desert area, so my friends would come out of the desert with their motorhomes, and those things were just notorious for boiling fuel because it's got a pump up at the front and there's literally no airflow. So you would see like 40 or 50 clothespins on the fuel line, basically from halfway up, and even with an electric pump in the back, pumping the fuel up there, it would still vapor lock by doing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Michael Schmidt's saying, metal gas tank, can you drill a hole and thread a hole in the car for a return line, or add a drain valve to the gas tank to fill lawnmower? Okay, so the easiest way to do this is generally way back at the tank where the sending unit is at and the pickup and all that stuff. There's usually multiple ports on that. I don't know what you call that, the sending unit.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And then I guess it's like the pass-through firewall thing or whatever. But it's where all the ports come in. There's generally one or two back there. If you have to drill one, there's kits made just for that specifically, right? That has, because it's got to be like an airtight seal kind of deal on there, right? Because otherwise gas will come out of it when you hit the brakes or when you accelerate hard.
Mm-hmm.
But you can always add ports. And then the smartest one that I've seen is some guys were doing a return line in the fuel filler neck.
That's what I have.
Do you? Yeah,
that's because on a Mopar, the filler neck is literally in the trunk, and it's got a vent line that's basically molded into it. It's a 1/4-inch hose, because the pickup is halfway down the tank, so the sending unit is literally halfway down. So there's no extra lines there. So mine goes into the return into the filler neck, and it's up near the top. So literally all that fuel rolls back down, and it's nice and cool. So I've actually felt that and felt the hot fuel going back into the tank, and then you can feel down below where it's actually getting cooler just because it's aluminum piece right there, and it makes a big difference.
Well, Bear Rose is saying I've always gone through the filler neck for a home brew return. It is that's the easiest way, and that like reality that it works the best because it's literally circulating the fuel and it's using the tank as a heat sink.
Yeah, and you can actually buy those things at Summit Racing, and a lot of them, like on my diesel, I forget the Fast Racing or Fast Fuels. They actually sell a thing where you can cut it, and there's a tube that goes onto it for the return style. So you can have one of those, cut your hose, put rubber line inside there between the two, and it works just fine because it's not going to leak, and it's only being used when you're filling the tank.
So Mohawk 62 saying my cousin had at least half of a roll of aluminum foil and maybe 15 clothespins on his 74 Novus fuel line just from the factory pump to the carb. Yeah. Oh, that's not very far at all. And those were generally steel lines.
Yeah.
I always wondered if you could, because there's companies that actually make those steel lines that are already pre-bent, right? I wondered if you could get them to make it out of aluminum. And like it's the same bends.
Yeah, mine. I actually had a factory one that was made out of aluminum.
Did you?
First line 6, yeah. They're I would say 77 or 78 was something in that range. But the problem with them is they bend too easy.
Yeah,
which you hit them. So I went back to steel, but I just wrap them in that heat. It's like that DID stuff, and it works amazing. If you do that from the pump up and then put a return on it, literally you'll have nothing except for just the boiling the fuel in the carburetors, as far as just that. And once you get fuel back to it, since you're returning fuel back, it's constantly moving fuel through there. It's really when you're cruising in stop and go traffic and all that heat's under the hood and literally there's no fuel being used and it just starts to boil. That's when you're going to start having problems.
Huh. SSR Performance says that if we can get some money together, we can have my Pop's grill for us.
Perfect.
Dude, that would be so, I think it would be awesome to just go there and hang out and have a dyno day for everybody that's like local. You know
what? I'm going to look at the Beacon schedule now and find something that's like, that's September, end of July, August, September, end of July. What we'll do is we'll have it so that way we can go up there. I'll find a race that's at Beacon on a Sunday. We'll go to your place on Saturday or whatever. And then we'll just do that. And then everybody who wants to come up there, I mean, I'll throw in, $40 for whatever.
Well, I'm saying that, like, I think everybody should just throw in like say $50 or $60, right? And then that all goes to the dyno.
Yeah.
Right. And that's for like the whole day, $60 each person. If we got like 5 people there,
I was talking 40 for just the food.
Oh.
Yeah. I was just like, I was going to do 40 for the food, and then whatever the dyno is what it is,
Yeah. Well, we can always just make a pool for the food, and then his dad can go grab something or whatever, or we could just show up with whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we could do that too. Yeah. Know how many people show up, but I agree with you. Well, just tell us what it would be, James, if we got some people together, because that's something I liked having. Dallas and I really enjoyed having all those people together, at Dallas's house. And we were even talking about, man, we got to do this again. And I'm all about that.
We need to do it more often. That's one of those things that, the way that ended up working out was we tried to keep it around 10 people because what we're looking at was like a majority of the people were coming and having to stay, right? Mm-hmm. Stay the night. And it's like, man, I don't have that much surface area, right? And so we were like, well, we'll keep it around 10. Well, it ended up being like 14. And we did not plan for 14, but thank goodness that a lot of them didn't stay the night. They jetted, and it was like, oh, shoot. But we would have been sleeping on the floor in trash bags probably at that point if all of 14 of them had stayed.
Yeah. But and so Michael Schmidt asking, how big of a hole can you use a return line or a return hole in the carb application before you will siphon fuel away from the carburetor? The 3-port filter has a super small hole, thousandths of an inch. I have 60 thousandths is what I have on mine for the return. Because when it's sitting there idling, if you pump that thing one or two times, there's a lot of fuel, and your carburetor, especially on my car, is not going to use nearly that kind of fuel. So, and remember, we're talking about pressure and volume. Once again, if you've got good volume, you don't need a lot of pressure, right? And in fact, on my race cars, I don't run 7 pounds. I don't run 6 pounds. I'm running 5 pounds of pressure because I'm running dash 10 fuel to the carburetor. And then the return is after the carb. So it comes from the tank through the pump to the carburetor, and then the regulators here, and the return is that. So it's seeing dash 10 fuel. So there's a massive amount of fuel being there as volume. I just dropped the pressure. So you can do the exact same thing here. That's this way you don't need, because your fuel's going to be cooler, doesn't need to be nearly as high of a pressure. You just run the volume. I prefer volume over pressure any day of the week on pretty much all fluids.
And well, I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
Miro's Garage says, best cure for vapor lock I know, cut the hood and join the tunnel ram mafia. It's
perfect.
The way to cure it. Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Yes.
Enough said.
I agree. That is a very easy way to solve the boiling fuel problem.
Yeah.
Vintage Adventure Drive says, Shane, I got another slant distributor and got the advance limited to 15 degrees. I added a 69 vacuum canister for that 6.5 degree 2 timing advance.
That's correct. Yep, exactly. Perfect. That's exactly what I do. And then you notice the 69 vacuum canister puts it way out on the outside. I'm telling you, that thing is going to run perfect, because then 15, I sent him a video of how to, recurve your distributor, and then add some light springs to it. You can actually just go down and get an HEI kit. They used to sell them on the shelves. I don't know if they still do. You use the blue springs out of that, and they're super light, and that will bring all the vacuum advance, the centrifugal advance, by 2200, which is really good for these things because it's got such a long stroke. And then, and that way you're getting the best mileage possible for that thing. So I'm happy for you, man. Go drive it. You're going to love it. Oh, change the plugs too. I have an NGK part number. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I changed the plugs on that too, and that really made a difference too. I stopped running the auto lights because they're not made in Heco de Mexico anymore. They're made in China.
Yeah, China. Okay, Dr. Go on drink. Okay, so Dizzy's talking about drinking a gallon every day, sweat it all out. I remember when I was running the AHRA, I would drink a gallon of water probably every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wouldn't even piss the whole day because you're sweating so much.
Bad. Yeah. I've been there. That Brona's done that to me,
Has it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there was actually 1 or 2 days here. It was summertime and I was on a bike ride and I literally brought a gallon of water with me. And man, I didn't pee all day and I drank a gallon of water.
Well, what I found sucks here in the South is that you used to be able up north to dump a gallon of water on your head and it would actually cool you off. Here, it just makes you feel more muggy.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
Oh, crap. That doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had cold water, I guess it would probably work just fine.
Yeah, I noticed just putting a towel on the back of your neck here is the best. In California, man, you just dump water. It's so dry out there. You'll dry off quick, but you feel good. Here, it just makes you more sticky,
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Vintage Adventure Drive says, I do have a spare distributor I can rob some light springs from. I did throw some fresh NGKs in it. That's the only plug I run.
Perfect.
So those light spring thing, the easy way to do it is just get an advanced curve kit for HEI, throw all the other shit away and just keep the springs. Because I even do that as an HEI guy because let me tell you the secret to the HEI. Okay. Most people, well, I guess majority of the hot rodders, they will buy those advanced curve kits and run them. And they're like made specifically by Mr. Gasket or Moroso or whoever you buy it from.
Yeah.
They're kind of garbage. They're actually really garbage. And then you got the other crew that believes they're Mr. Wizard and they weld shit up. And they weld the weights or they weld the cam, the center cam. And nothing ever works the way it's supposed to. And after spending 80,000 hours with a file, you might have something that remotely looks like a factory piece.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you can be like me and realize that I'll tell you something really cool. Each weight and cam has a number on it.
That's right.
Those numbers are associated to the factory weights. Not weights, but degrees of advance that each one of those gives you, right? And so all you do is run those numbers. If you Google HEI distributor weights and cams, it will come up with a list of them that tells you, hey, okay, if you got a 406 cam, it makes 24 degrees of mechanical advance.
Yep.
Right. If you got the weights are a 61, the 61s will lock out at 10 degrees mechanical advance. Right. So then you just add the two together and you come up with your number. Right. Oh, that's 34. That's too much. And so that's how that works. And then I just use the light springs. Every HI distributor, I found the same thing works. All right. Those springs that you buy from the advanced curve kit, I use one medium and one light. Right. If I use both the lights, it gets instant throttle detonation. And if you use one heavy and one light, it actually comes in about, I don't know, 12, 14, 1600 RPM, something like that. And it works quite well for 87 octane stuff when you're running about 8-to-1 compression.
On an HEI, because how far the weights are out.
Mm-hmm.
On a slant 6 or on a Dodge, your weights are really calm. They're heavier, but they're really close to the center. So I run
that has less centrifugal force.
Yes, less force. So I use 2 of the blue ones on it, and the blue ones usually come in about 2100 with the factory weights. I have 2 videos of it, but there's different weights. And what I'll do is I'll mix and match the weights, and I'll actually weigh them, how much they actually weigh, because they have a little bronze bushing on them, and that will tell you kind of where it's going to be. But yeah, that's I use the light ones on that because it takes so long.
If I can ever get my shit squared away with finances after this divorce,
yeah,
I have got a Sun distributor machine saved on Facebook Marketplace. It's $500, dude, and we're gonna go get it.
And I got to tell you, we have a Sun machine at the building, and I used it when I first got here at R&D. When I first got here, I used that to tune my distributors, so that's how I knew where it came in, how much advance, and I used that to tune my cars. Now, where it went, I don't know, but that's how I tune my distributors to get them exactly right. I found 15, 15, and 15 was perfect for slant 6. That's 15 of initial timing, 15 centrifugal, so 30 degrees total, and then 15 for vacuum advance, and have it all in by 2200 or 2000 to 2200 for what I was doing. Now, race car is totally different, but for what I was doing, that was the ideal thing for it. Oh, speaking of which, Dizzy, I see that you're still in here. Give me a call after this, after the live, so we can make sure that we're going to connect this weekend, on Sunday or Saturday. I'd rather do it on Saturday because it looks like rain on Sunday. So just give me a call.
Tom Brown says, question, I put a lot of recurve kits into GM distributors. Can you
drill holes in the factory weights?
Can you drill holes in the factory weights? Is there anything wrong with that?
I wouldn't drill holes.
All it's doing is changing the weight of it, right?
Yeah.
So at how fast it comes out, you can actually control all of that with the spring.
Yep. And you usually want to have them a little heavier, so that way it will actually react to the spring faster. Typically, that's at least for Mopars. For Chevrolet, because they're so farther out, some of them are going to be lighter with a really light spring, so that way they react faster.
Let's see, Dizzy's saying when I was young, some of the 8 and 10 ton rollers I ran were stick steering with Chevy 6-cylinder. Oh, he's probably talking about steam rollers because he was talking about doing some asphalting.
Here we go.
So Tom Brown saying, Dallas, I have an old book that has all the GM Dizzy part numbers and the amount of factory advance on each, but they don't list the weight numbers. I'm telling you, there's a chart on the web, and this is okay. I'll throw this out there just so everybody is aware. What am I seeing here? Okay. all of this information that used to be stored on the forums, there used to be some heavy hitter forums before Facebook pretty much destroyed them all, right? Yeah. And a lot of this information is going to go away because whoever's paying for that web space for those forums will eventually one day just stop paying. And all of that information will be lost. A lot of this stuff that we're talking about here, especially like the distributor weights and cams, the center cams, all that's on forums from like 2001 to 2006.
You can still find them. They're still out there. Yeah.
But I would definitely say if you intend on doing this stuff for quite some time, capture that stuff, print it out on a piece of paper, throw it in a binder, and then hold on to it, because when the web no longer has it, it's gone.
And literally my YouTube channel literally says this, to document my builds. That's literally what it is, because sometimes, I misplace something, or I lose this paper, or I lose that. At least it's here, and I have it on my, I have a hard drive, I have a removable hard drive, and then I have it on the internet. So that way I can always go back and go, what was that again? Oh yeah, this is how I did that,
Yeah. But they're on the web. I've had to search this up many times.
Yeah.
There is entire forum posts dedicated to HEI weights and cams.
Yeah.
And they list out like, I bet there's probably 40 to 100 listed weights and cams. And I know for a fact I've owned probably 20 of them that aren't even on the list.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is actually really,
guess.
This is a good question. Bear Rose is saying this question. I am playing with Molly's hatchet, and I'm trying to break in Howard's cam with comp DLC lifters. People are chiming in me for the mismatch in brands. It doesn't matter. Here's the thing is, literally, I'm going to tell this, and I'm going to say this again. It doesn't matter if it's a Howard's cam, it's a Crowder's cam, if it's a cast iron cam, period. They're coming from one manufacturer. The core is coming from one manufacturer. As long as there's taper in that, which you can measure the base circle on one side, measure the base circle on the other. There should be a 0.003 difference. That's 1.5 thou taper. Because remember, 1.5 per size, not 3,000. It's 1.5 because that's what it sees. It should be right around there. Sometimes there's 1 thou. Some people put 2 thou. As long as there's taper, it's going to be fine. The DLC lifters are going to be they're convex, right? So they're out. They're not concave, they're convex. And there's a slight dome. Take the 2 lifters, put them together, and you're going to feel them rock back and forth. It's not going to make any difference because the cast iron is the same cast iron, because remember, they're all the same core. The DLC lifters are diamond-like coating. It's not even really going to be touching the lifter at all. Don't even worry about it. They're just stupid, and they don't know what they're talking about. And I rarely say that about people, but I have to say it out like this, that they just don't even know what they're talking about. And they're just basically, they're just recording and regurgitating what other people have said on the internet. And they probably built 1 or 2 engines in their lifetimes. Don't even listen to them. You're going to be fine. Don't listen to it. Just run it. Break it in like a regular cam, even though you don't really need to. Just break it in like you would. It's a good moment. And then run the thing and just be happy. You'll be fine.
So Wheelie King is here saying, books, if you can read a comment section, you can read a book. You know what? Like all the time I spent in the Navy, when I first joined, like everything was in a book. I was like a book nerd. I would sit there and read them. Like every time I wanted to learn something, I would just like, if you didn't know where it was at in the book and you would look at the table of contents and it didn't make sense where it could be at, it's like, well, you know what? The best place to start is page 1. And you just start reading until you find the information that you want, right?
Yeah. And you'll pick up stuff along the way,
Well, along the way there, they went to all PDF documents.
Oh, terrible.
Right? And they had guys just destroy the books because we had them all on PDF. And one day we lost power. And it was like, let's get the power book. We don't have that. We have a power PDF. Right? How do you look at that?
Yeah.
With no power.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, we pull in the port and we print out 150,000 books and put them back on the shelves.
Yep.
Because when the power's out, how do you run the PDF? No one had thought about that until it actually happened. But
yeah.
Um,
So Miss Catchy, yes, they are $2,000, but what you're talking about is the whole thing is DLC coded. Now that's like NASCAR stuff, and they're very expensive. Where we changed the game is where we just put the DLC coding just on the face, so that way we could slash the cost of that, because doing it on the inside and the outside and everything takes special machining processes and everything. So yeah, look at the comp
no,
lifters.
no. Hit up Shane in the email,
Yeah,
right? Because they're over in Australia. Hit up Shane in the email. What's your email?
it's spolito@edelbrock.com.
He can get you a part number for a comp DLC lifter or whatever you're trying to build.
Yeah,
And then you can order them through Summit Racing, and they're probably $200, and then it might cost you your normal Australian shipping.
yeah,
You know, when I lived there in Australia, that was like the first thing they told us was that, hey, you're not allowed to buy anything from the United States and sell it in Australia. It's against the law. And then they stopped paying me, like when my rent went up. But when I was there during the market crash of like 08, 9, 10, right? And my rent went up, like, I'm going to say it was like 4,100 a month or something. And I was living in Rose Bay, Australia, which is like in Sydney, but it's like the ritzy part of Sydney.
yeah,
And that's because I worked in Watson's Bay, which was like the super ritzy part, like Beverly Hills kind of stuff. Anyway, when my rent went up and I hit the maximum limit on the US exchange because the exchange was upside down, I'm like, Summit Racing, MSD ignition boxes, send me 5. And then we go to the drag strip and I'm like, for sale, brand new in the box. Like, and it was, I want to say the price over there was like $1,000 for an MSD box, 1,000 Australian.
yeah.
Well, I had bought them for like $200, 200 US.
Hmm.
So I'd mark them up to like, say, equivalent of like 500 US. And they're still getting a deal on them, right? Because at that time, I want to say the exchange rate was like almost 1-to-1 when the market crashed. It's horrid. It was the only way I made rent every month was that. And I had met the maximum limit the U.S. military would pay you for rent, and I had no other place to live,
Yeah.
right? Like I had to walk to work because I couldn't afford to have a car because the insurance was retarded because I had no driving history. It was like the weirdest thing, It's like the things that you take for granted that you don't realize, you got 20 years of driving history, which is what makes your insurance so fairly low.
Yeah.
And you go somewhere else and you don't have that 20 years of driving history. You're not even in their industry's books. So then they're like, maximum payment,
So Tom Brown's asking a question here, and I really have a great answer for this question. Drilling the 3 middle mains, bigger holes on a big block Chevrolet up to the cam journal, should I screw in restrictors in the cam bearing slots? Absolutely. If this is a drag car, you can put, since there's nothing else but just that cam bearing, you can go all the way down to 40 thousandths. If it's a street car, I'd recommend, say, 50 to 60 thousandths. Here's why. The cam is literally going half the speed of the engine. And that is such a big bearing. And it literally takes, if you take a 50 thousandths hole and you put, say, 55 pounds of oil pressure to it, there's a massive amount of oil that could flow through there. Now, remember that oil is only going to allow the flow of what can actually go between the bearing. So there's plenty of volume of oil through that little tiny hole because it will supply probably 200% more oil than that thing ever needs, even with that little tiny hole. The only reason why I would say go to the 60 for street cars because the oil is going to thin out, over time because it's going to be hotter, and then therefore it's going to require a little bit more oil to coat the surface. Other than that, I do this on mostly all of my not slant six, but my small block Mopars that do not require. So number 1, number 5, and number 3. I do this exact same thing on all the small blocks, all the big blocks. I do this exact same style of thing.
So Dr. Go was saying, Shane, if I have the comp 20-222-3 cam and lifters and plan to use a 1/6 Harlan Sharp roller tip intake and 1.5 on exhaust on my 302, casting closed chamber 318 heads on my 318. How do I select springs?
You're going to need to get an installed height first. That's the first thing you need to do. So your installed height's probably going to be in the 1.750 range, but you're still going to need it. As far as looking for springs, obviously that size cam, I believe that's 218, 224 on a 110, but on a 302, that's going to be a pretty hot cam. So that's going to probably go to about 6,500 in that setup as far as RPM goes. So you're going to need a little bit of spring pressure. So, but it's not going to need a ton. And on the 1.6 on the intake, and then 1.5 on the exhaust, you're not going to need to change the spring pressures because you're going to get the mechanical advantage back on the 1.6 because it's going to be a little heavier. So I would say somewhere in the 140 to 150 range on the seat. I wouldn't go much over 300 over the nose on either side. You're really not going to need it because you're not going to be turning much over 6,500 for that. But I need an install height and I need a pocket diameter. So that way we can get the right spring. You could send that to me and I can forward it over. I'll get all the springs. I can follow it over to either Dallas Moss or Alex So. If you're part of the No Name National crew, if you've registered, then you get the discount. If not, then I'll send you somewhere else and we'll see what we can do for you. But that's what I need is an install height because there's really no, it's even though you tell me it's stock, it could have been cut. It could have different, there's too many variations on those heads, too many different length valves to know what the factory installed height is. And also too, if you tell me the diameter of the retainer, this way we can put this spring under the factory retainer. That's something that's going to work. And if you're using this thing, is this a hydraulic roller or is this I don't know. I don't know if it's a flat tappet. If it's a flat tappet, oh yeah, it's hydraulic flat tappet. Then definitely get our DLC lifters, so that way you don't have to break it in with the inner springs in or anything like that. You just start it up, break it in, and drive the damn thing.
Michael Schmidt says, warning, don't buy a Sun distributor tester unless it works already. If you're up for it, get a bitchin' pretty one if it's going to take up 25 square feet. I have 4 Allen Dizzy testers that don't work. Okay, first and foremost, this is the kind of junk I used to work on in the Navy. If you know what Macy tubes are, then you'll know I can probably fix one of these things in my sleep. But the one I was looking at was already functional and came with a whole second one that for parts. If you have 4 Allen Dizzy testers and not one of them works, I would say that there's something wrong. You could probably get 2 working machines out of that. Easy, I would assume. But if not, man, you can get in touch with me, Dallas at ahraonline.com, and I might be able to help you out and get one of them Dizzy machines working for you. Because if you got 3 spares,
let's get one to work.
Yeah, we can get one of them to work. I think it would be kind of cool.
Yeah, and that way too, I could bring some stuff up there and we can actually test it, and we can literally slam a distributor in a car. I've got a draggy, so we could just go and test on that back road. That's that main road that goes by your house right there. There's a nice little straight section right there.
Oh, my house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way we could actually do some, just in a regular street car, performance. You just go by mile an hour,
Yeah.
Not by seconds, mile an hour. That tells you horsepower.
Right. Vintage Adventure Drive says I rarely read books myself, but I will always go straight for a book for anything I need to know, dude. Last year or maybe 2 years? I think I've said this on here before. I was at the Buick Nationals, and there was a guy had an enclosed trailer, and inside the enclosed trailer, he had the how did he put it? He had the On Your Honor swap meet, right? He was busy racing. Buy whatever you want. They all had price tags on them that he'd already put on there, and leave the money in this box.
That's awesome.
And it was that's when you can trust the people you're around, right? When stuff like that is, because if you were racing in Memphis, you'd be robbed. They would have stole everything inside your trailer in the box. The table was sitting on the wheels, glue holding it together.
Right.
Yeah, they would have robbed it
out of your cooler.
But what was cool is this guy had an entire collection of motor books from 1959 to 1975. And it said, On Your Honor. Each one of those books was $10, right? I just threw $150 in there, just the whole thing. Just haul them all back to my truck because I'm like, man, I'm never gonna find these anywhere, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's like perfect,
Yeah.
And at that point, what I would do is if I was putting that much money in there, I literally would put a note in there with my name and my phone number because I've done that where we had the honor system, and I didn't want to drop $200 in there because then someone would steal it.
Dude, $150 for all those books. I bet those books were probably as much as an encyclopedia set back in the day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, do you know that we went and bought 2 Britannica? We have the old school Britannica encyclopedia that we have, and then we have another style of it, Britannica. It's like the version of it, but we actually have encyclopedias in our house because I make the kids look it up. They look up something on the internet, and I make them go look it up in the encyclopedia, and they're usually the answers don't match. So yeah, and it's actually really cool because they now that they're asking AI, they're usually getting the correct answer, but the ones in the encyclopedias are correct.
Oh man, let me catch up here. Okay.
This is actually, I was married with a kid at 17, living on my own. I was living on my own at 16, but man, I couldn't be married with a kid at 17. No way. Yeah, and while there's a little bit lull here, yeah, don't forget our sponsor, WAF Racing. Go check him out. Chris Wozniak's an awesome dude. We're trying to get his car together. He's trying to go to, there's a race called The Circuit. So he's got a YouTube channel, and go check him out. He's going to be testing some stuff for me. And it's going to be really cool. You'll see everything but the actual thing. But go check it out because it's going to be really cool. And we did a lot of work on this together. I actually spent the weekend at his house, a day actually at his house, getting this thing ready. So, here's one too, but now they've changed. Now I have the old school ones, but FYI, if you can get it, there's always better to get assembly manuals for your car. I have found that I have a ton more information than the Chiltons or Hayes. I agree. There used to be a whole library of these Chilton or Hayes at like the auto parts stores, but man, they're just crap because the information in them is just so spotty and it doesn't match. But if you get the old school books that literally have everything, like they're the old, like what I would call like all data nowadays, but for back then,
that's the motor books I've looked up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It starts in the front and goes alphabetical all the way through every car sold in the United States.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I have a transmission book with that has literally all the 727s, 904s, 350s, turbo.
That would be cool to have. That's like totally dedicated to that one transmission or whatever.
Well, it's dedicated to all 3 speeds. So 904, 727, 350, 400, C4, C6, and I think that's it. I think that's it because it's just those 4. There's those 6 automatics.
Huh. Yeah, Chris Cox is saying that he says those old motor manuals are incredible. Fab Race Mod Repeat. It says Dallas, old motor manuals are incredible.
Yeah. Dr. Go saying that thanks, Shane. I'll get some measurements. Retainer. The lifters were here with the cam. And he is part of the No Name National Zettelbrock group. Perfect. Then you can either message me or Alex So. I just tell you that I'm usually busy during the day, so I can't get right back to you. Where Alex So is, that literally is his job. So you can actually send it to both of us, and then you can always tell him, hey, make sure it was Shane because I don't trust you, Alex, and he'll think it's funny. So just you can play jokes.
Mohawk saying that, yep, Dallas' neighbors really love him. The day that we chose to do that 50th blowout all hands on deck thing, it just so happens that was my neighborhood garage sale, right? So like we were the only ones that had an entire driveway full of cars working on stuff. Everybody else was selling crap out their driveway. I didn't intend it to be that way, and it kind of just popped up after we threw that out there. That thing popped up like a week later, and I didn't even pay attention to it because I was focusing on bar stuff happening. And I was like, man, why is it so busy in the neighborhood today? Everybody
man.
kept driving by looking at us because there was so many cars parked there. And I think it's because we had like a myriad of like old cars, new stuff. There was all kinds of crap.
So Mr. Wilburn's saying that Plymouth on Plywood is running last in No Name Nationals 500, but he's got 154 days, 2 hours and 18 minutes. Not really sure on the seconds because when this posted, we're a little past that. So it's actually probably 3 past that. So it's 15 minutes to surge to the top. Here's the thing. Go check him out. Go to YouTube. And if he earned your sub, check it out. But we would like to see him there at the No Name Nationals. And even if you don't make it, Plymouth, just show up. It's a really awesome community event, and then that way there you can kind of peddle your getting your subs. But yeah, go check them out, and if you earned your sub them.
Michael Schmidt saying there's Paramount Distributors that supports the Sun Dizzy machines. There is no support that I have found for the Allen machines. Still looking though. Hey, if you can get a book on those Allen machines, or you already have one, I can help you out, dude. This is the kind of crap I had to fix every day in the Navy, every single day. So it would be a piece of cake. I'm sure we can get, if you got 4 of them, I'm sure we can get one of them working easily.
And John's saying this too. Go to nonamenationals.com, get on the Edelbrock discount, register today, because the sooner you register, the sooner you, if you're building your car now, you drop $90 or what, I'm not sure exactly what it is this year, but whatever the cost is, that's going to go, you basically make one decent purchase and it's going to pay for itself in spades. Also too, it helps John out because the more people who register earlier, the better the event can be, because then he can actually start planning for different events. Like we had the movie. Remember when we had the Smokey and the Bandit movie?
I wish we had that again. That was so awesome.
That
and
was
so
so awesome.
Underappreciated. That was so awesome.
Yes,
I wish
I agree.
my son would have been there for that.
Dude, I'm telling you, it was the greatest. I was sitting out there and there was a big blow up screen. It was Smokey and the Bandit. It was beautiful. And yeah, so go and check it out, because like I said, the sooner you can do this, the better.
You know, when we watched that movie, that we were watching Smokey and the Bandit, I'm sitting there watching, and all of a sudden my phone buzzes. I look at it, and it's Barkley Schmidt was like, "Hey, dude, where are you at?" And I'm like, I was like, "I'm watching the movie." He's like, "Where at, man? I don't see you." And I look right next to me, and he's sitting on his motorcycle, and he's drunk as hell. And I'm like, "Look to your right." And he looked over, and he's like, "Oh my God."
I was right there too. I thought that was so funny. I was like, dude, right there.
Yeah, we were like, he was literally like within 2 feet of me. And he was messaging me. And the funny thing was, I already knew he was there. And I'm like, what the hell? This guy must be drunk as all get out. And he was.
Last thing on this is that John Wilburn saying that between $633 and $950 spent pays the registration and savings. So if you're buying anything, even a carburetor or an intake or whatever you're getting, camshaft, whatever, you could easily drop that kind of money on it.
$633 is literally a cam kit, and you're done.
Exactly. So whatever you're getting, that will literally pay for it. So think of it like a Costco membership. You're buying this to save a ton of money down the road. And once again, the more people who pay into this now, if we get past that, I think it's 35,000 mark, it goes down to WD. And that's what Summit Racing, Jegs, they buy the stuff from us at. So
John's saying, I would love to do a movie again. People registering early could make that happen.
yes.
I tell you what, let me set it up for you, because if you weren't there for it, what it was a giant blow-up drive-in movie theater screen. And we were having this movie right next to I-55, but just far enough that you could actually kind of hear the buzz of the cars going down the road, and nothing more than that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like windy or anything.
It was great.
And you could hear the movie just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And the neat thing about it was, if you've never been to No Name Nationals, or like you've only been before like one time or something, if you didn't know this, it always happens at the very tail end of summer. And what you have is you'll generally have these hot days where it feels like summertime, and the nighttime starts to feel like fall, and you could literally sleep in a lawn chair out there watching this movie.
It was great.
So relaxing.
Yeah. Dust Devil's asking a question here. Okay, not a tough question, but how long have you guys been friends?
Well, probably not as long as you think.
Yeah.
Shane and I met in
15, 14?
I think it was 15 because it was 15 when I went to San Diego, but you and I didn't link up until the first Match Race Madness that I went to, which was like November of 15.
Yeah, November 15. And then when did we do our first adventure? That's where we got the white truck. When was that?
Oh, dude, when was that?
That was our very first adventure together.
Yeah, and it was an adventure. I bought a truck. Well, let me think about this. I want to say that one, that might have been early 16.
Yeah.
Or late 15. Because I remember getting the truck, and remember when we went and looked at it, I found it on Craigslist.
Yes, I was
yeah, and it was runs and drives.
Nope.
And we went out there, and it didn't even have any plugs in it. Like, there's no way it fucking runs, right? And then we turned the motor over, to try to turn it by hand, and it was locked up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's no way this thing ran within the past 10 years. There's no way. And it was a standard cab long bed, 351 Windsor, F250 with an E4OD automatic. And it was, California has all this crazy emissions on stuff like that, right? And this thing was so fragged. What did I beat him down from like $600 to like $200 or just get it off the property or whatever it was?
I don't remember what it was, but yeah, it was. I stood back for that, but we had to use the winch and bring it up on there. But I actually think that there was a time where we actually met, but we didn't know we met because I was at the same drag races as he was, street racing in the 90s. I was literally going down the exact same drag strip, and he had to have seen. I didn't have the Cookie Monster then, but I had a Volkswagen Bug at that point, and then I went to a 70 Dart. That was I had a 360 because the 340 blew up with a 4-speed. So I was out there with that.
We ran in the same circles. But you got to remember, San Diego is like literally an extension of LA. It's freaking humongous.
Yes.
And I guess when you look at a big community like that, back then San Diego was big with street racing because there was no track.
Yeah.
Right. And then they ended up opening up a track in the parking lot at Qualcomm Stadium. But before that, there was no track. The closest track was probably Carlsbad, which was like 2 hours away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was a really north count.
And it was only open like once a month.
Yeah. So, at that time, yeah.
Street racing was big. And what was neat was the way I like to say it is everybody was essentially 1 degree of separation away from everybody.
Exactly.
Right? You knew some of the same people and you were friends with some of the same people, but you just hadn't had the same beer night at that guy's house that had that person there.
Exactly.
That was kind of what was neat about it. And what was really cool was like the heavy hitters when I went out there was like, okay, Joe Sherman been building crazy small block and big block Chevys for freaking 50 years in Hot Rod Magazine and on Engine Masters and all kinds of stuff. And he was the go-to dude. And if I just ran up to him giddy like a little kid, like in a candy store, like, oh my God, it's Joe Sherman, he would treat you just like a regular person.
Yeah. Right.
And these people were like everywhere. Right? You walk around the pits at Verona and you run into Finnegan and Freiberger. They're testing a Duster or what else did they
55?
bring?
They had another 55 or so, and then they trucked the muscle truck. They drove the muscle truck out there.
We used to have all the crazy street race guys. So you had the dudes from Terminal Island, the Brotherhood of Street Racers. Then you had who was Mike? Oh God, what was that guy's Mustang Mike? No, he's a street racer. He was on Street Outlaws a couple of times, and he was from Southern California. Mike
Gypsy Mike.
Gypsy Mike. Yes, Gypsy Mike.
I raced Gypsy Mike once.
Those dudes
are
were just walking around in the pits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Gypsy and it Mike was really, really freaking cool.
Yeah, big block. I think he had a big block Camaro on nitrous, and I had a small block Mopar. I had a stick shift at the time. He didn't beat me by very much because I had that 250 kit on it, and I was able to feather it a little better than him. But that was actually on the street race. But he did beat me, but did beat me by much, and that was actually in California, LA area. So,
well, so really, when Shane and I met was out at Verona testing and tuning. We were both running in that NA 10.5 deal, or Match Race Madness, maybe both. I don't remember. And my dad came out there to visit, and I said, I met this guy that works at Crowler, right? And he's like, oh, really? Well, I was thinking about getting a camshaft. And so we drove down to the border when Shane was at work, and he actually came to the front desk and met us, and he walked my dad through buying a camshaft for a 326 Pontiac and a 64 GTO. And my dad thought that was the coolest thing that ever happened to him. Hot rodding, that like literally somebody from a cam manufacturer walked you through what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he thought that was so bitching. And then I took him up to, well, then I burst your bubble a little bit, Shane, because then I took him up to Schneider, and we ordered a camshaft out of the window, and then ate a burrito.
Yeah, right.
It's still like one of the best things ever.
Yeah. You know what, man? I got to say this, man. We're at 156 already, man. We got only like less than
it's blown by, and I kind of wish we could. I'm just getting going. That, yeah, you know what? Maybe that's what we should do next week is Shane and I will tell you about the Verona drag strip. And man, I'll tell you, we did something really cool. We made our own trophies for an event that like didn't really have any trophies except for like few, like for a couple of winners, you know? And we made all these trophies up for like stuff that you don't normally see. And golly, like people were
just,
it just crushed them. Like, you know, emotionally, like you'd been doing this for 20 years and never got recognized. And all of a sudden, bang, this hits, and it just hits you all at once. You know? And it was cool.
So, So what I'm going to do this next week is I'm going to get with James. I'm going to look at Beacon, and we're going to try to pick out a week so people can get their stuff ready. That the sooner we do it now, the sooner the better. We want to do it with people that are already registered for the No Name Nationals, people that are going to be in the Triple Crown or whatever. If you just like this and you want to show up and watch, come on out. Obviously it'd be awesome. But yeah, I'm going to pick a date for that, so that way we can go out there, dyno, and then all go to the drag strip and just see what, you know, and that way we can everyone get a sneak peek of what people are doing, and we'll post no times. So that way people can just see it. You know, we'll have no times on there, pro tree type thing. And then that way people can kind of salivate for the Triple Crown this year. I think that will be awesome.
I think it'll be cool. I really do. And I'll see if I can get my junk there.
Yeah, we'll get it there, man. If we need to do another, all hands on deck party again, we'll do it. Why not?
No, I don't think that's what I need. I just need to get stuff put together.
Yeah. Hey, Tom Brown, you never answered this. If I give you a stick shift, I would like you to make one. He's the one that does all the blacksmithing, right?
Yeah, she needs a shifter handle.
Yeah, I need not just a handle. I want the whole shifter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a shifter, the whole thing. After I get it all in the car and ready to go, I'm going to send it to you, and I want you to make something. I have no problem paying for it, but I want something that is custom made by you. You know, just really bitching, man. And I like skulls and make it pretty intricate because I like that shit, man. And I want to be able to put my white knob 5-speed shifter on top of it. So I think that would be really, really cool.
Danny Boyd said, my favorite street outlaw I'd like to meet is Boosted GT. They're talking about the street outlaws, guys. I'll tell you something cool, man. I went up to Fontana and raced one time, and they put me in like the streetcar class. Look at him, a T-Bird, and I got paired up with Freiberger and Dulcich were running the crop duster.
Oh,
it was running like 11 something, and they were over there getting it ready. I mean, it sounded good. It's got a big block in it and stuff, and it sounded all right. Man, I put a beating on that thing like bus legs. Freiberger was like, wow, I didn't expect that.
That's awesome. I guess with that, guys, we're coming up on the 2 hour mark here. Thanks for joining in. Once again, Go get registered for the No Name Nationals. Go see Mr. John Wilburn on his channel at 7 Central, 8 his time on his. John Wilburn, he's the bringer of the No Name Nationals. The sooner you register, the better stuff we get. So go check it out. And also WAF Racing. You got any final things you want to say, Dallas?
Nothing. I guess, thanks for coming out for the all hands on deck 50th birthday thing. And Shane and I have talked about it. And we think it's probably important that we do that more often, instead of just throwing something out there willy-nilly. We really kind of plan for something. And I think if we play our ducks right here, our cards right, we could probably be sitting up at SSR Performance, having some cold beverages while sitting back watching somebody dyno their junk.
I think it would be
awesome. Cool. I know it would be awesome.
I'm down for that. So I'm
grilling some meat.
Yeah. All right, guys. With that, you guys have a great week. We'll see you guys next week, and take it easy, guys.